Divine Remembrance, Zikr-i-Ilahi by Allama Nasir al-Din Nasir Hunzai. Translated from Urdu into English by Fakir Muhammad Hunzai and Zain Rahim Qasim. Foreword. O Lord of Honor, I am a very humble slave of thy messenger Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wasallam, and of his pure progeny, the guiding Imams. Therefore, through the noble relation of this family and by means of this holy lineage, aid me and grant me help and luminous Nurani guidance, so that every intention, speech, and action of mine will be in accordance with thy pleasure. My spiritual brothers and sisters, may the Lord of the world illuminate your hearts forever with the light of ma'rifat, gnosis. In view of the need of success in zikr-o-ibadat, i.e., remembrance and devotion, and spiritual progress, it was discussed in a circle of friends that a useful book pertaining to the subject of zikr-i-ilahi, divine remembrance, should be written which would deal with the problems related to this subject. That is to say, that there was a need for the satisfactory solution to these questions. How may one achieve success in zikr? Why is one distracted while engaged in ibadat? Why do various types of worldly thoughts occur immediately at the beginning of the zikr of God, despite the fact that we do not wish this to be the case, etc., etc. Thus a book, the need of which was felt with great intensity, has been completed, and is now in front of you by the grace and favor of God, the knowing and the wise, and by the blessings of the guidance of Muhammad and his progeny, peace be upon them. For the completion of this book, I was extremely in need of divine help, and I am also in need of that during the present and in the future, and I pray that may God, through His mercy, place such blessings in this book that owing to those blessings, faithful readers may achieve that pleasure and happiness pertaining to the spirit and knowledge. Otherwise, who am I, and what is my effort? Inasmuch as the subject of zikr-i-ilahi is lofty and exalted, so is it as delicate and difficult. Therefore, the responsibility of writing something on this subject proves to be a heavy burden. Notwithstanding my circumstances, I am extremely grateful to my kind and affectionate Lord for having turned all my difficulties into facilities through having bestowed upon me the great favor of Darweshi. This is the kindness of this holy and miraculous being. In this connection, I deem it necessary to advise those friends who will read this book that they should study it carefully. They should study it not only once, but they should study it deeply several times and reflect upon it, and understand it, and put it into practice. Some of my friends may pose the question that after having read this book once or twice and understanding its contents, what else remains in this book, to require its being studied furthermore again and again? The answers to this question follow as under. 1. This book is on the subject of zikr-i-ilahi. It contains instructions pertaining to zikr-i-ilahi. In order to instill these, constant study and a continuous struggle is extremely necessary. 2. This book contains the description of ethical and spiritual diseases, and thus it is a kind of physician. It is necessary, therefore, to have recourse to this kind physician until the patient's health is completely restored. 3. This book is a mirror of spirit and spiritualism, and, therefore, the mu'min should look at it again and again to examine whether the luster and beauty of his soul's countenance is in progress or in decline. 4. The topics covered in Zikr Ibadat include the realization of Zikr Ilahi, the course of Zikr, the important points about Zikr, preparation for Zikr, repentance for our weaknesses in Zikr, and the determination to progress in Zikr, observing its possibility of progress. Therefore, the book should be studied repeatedly. There are several occasions of having a glimpse of ilm al-laduni, given knowledge. One of them is that the mu'min should create in himself love for religious knowledge, and in order to do that, he should study a religious book which contains sublime purports again and again. Then all of a sudden he will begin to experience spiritual grace, and a current of joy will pass through his heart, particularly when he is reflecting seriously on the meaning and wisdom of a comprehensive word. 6. Most people complain that they engage in zikr riyazat, remembrance and spiritual exercise, for extended periods of time, but nonetheless they are unable to achieve any special spiritual progress. Generally, the reason for this failure is that they are unaware of the science of zikr ibadat. They do not engage in the theoretical riyazat, spiritual exercise, of pondering and reflecting upon religious books in order to reach to the essence of their wisdom. This riyazat should particularly be carried out upon such a book which itself pertains to the subject of zikr ibadat. 7. Almost everyone is aware of the saying, die before death. However, I think very few people understand its meaning, for it is quite complicated. Its meaning is that in this world, life is of two kinds. Ordinary life, which means to live in nafsi ammara, carnal soul, and the special life, which means to live in ruh al-iman, soul of faith. However, it is extremely difficult in practice to defeat the tyrannical enemy, nafsi ammara, only by means of ibadat, until the true mu'min equips himself with ilmi haqiqat, knowledge of reality. There is a dire need for such a science, which has here been prepared for this purpose. 8. In the world, no action can be accomplished only by the body without the soul, nor by the soul without the body. Similarly, in religion, action stands for the body and knowledge for the spirit. Therefore, it should be known that ibadat is action and is in the status of a body, which needs the spirit of knowledge and wisdom. Their union is necessary in order to accomplish the religious purpose of the mu'mins. 9. In addition to the above mentioned, one further reason requiring constant reference to this book is that in numerous places references to the Quranic wisdom pertaining to zikr ibadat are made. Thus, if in addition to ibadat or bandagi, a pure mu'min will continue to study this book, it is more likely that through the light of these allusions, references, he will be able to understand the weakness of his ibadat, which he was not able to understand previously in a clearer and more thorough manner. I am sure that if the spiritual help of God, the Prophet, and the Imam of the time is granted, this book will be of great interest to the readers, and the mu'mins will gain thereby the benefits of knowledge and spiritualism. This is among the supreme and sublime purposes of writing this book. If this, as I greatly hope, is materialized, then I will try to perform the prostration of thanksgiving once again before the Lord of the universe with utmost submission and humility. For myself and all my works, those which have been completed and those which are yet incomplete, are extremely in need of divine mercy. This book is entitled by the subject itself, Zikr-i-Ilahi. It is divided into 6 chapters, and each chapter is divided into many topics, so that there should not be any confusion and complication in the understanding of the meanings and implications of the subject, and through the topics each meaning should be understood distinctly. In order to make the book easily understandable, an attempt has been made to keep the style of writing simple and devoid of mannerism of every kind of verbosity and without unnecessary difficult words, so that the essence of the meaning should not be obscure and inaccessible to the readers, and they can easily benefit from the realities and the gnosis of the book. It was under consideration to write the second part of this book, Zikr-i-Ilahi, but since the subject matter of this part is mainly related to the results and consequences of Zikr-i-Ilahi and the marvels and wonders of the spirit and spiritualism, therefore the writing of the second part has been delayed until it can be estimated from the effects of the first part how rapidly spiritual delicacies can be digested. Arriving at this stage, I remember all those spiritual brothers and sisters who will read or listen to this book, and recall those friends who support me for my service in knowledge. Whether this encouragement is in the state of kind prayers, good thoughts, and bright ideas, or in the form of material words or deeds. In any case, I am cordially grateful to them for their various kinds of encouragements, and I pray as a dervish that may God, the Great and Exalted, grant them the wealth of felicity, eudaimonia, of both worlds, and may the pleasure and peace of true knowledge fall to their lot. For knowledge, the servant of the Jama'at, Nasir al-Din Nasir Hunzai, 22nd February 1976. In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful. Chapter 1. The Meanings and Purports of Zikr. Zikr has various meanings and purports, which we are going to explain here in detail, so that this will sufficiently help those, our brothers, sisters, and friends, who are interested in and related to this magnificent, mysterious, and sacred feat, and for whom this book is written to understand the profound realities of zikr. The literal meaning of zikr. In the Arabic lexicon, zikr means remembrance, and remembrance is such a word which can correctly be used for a thing only and only if that has been forgotten, or if attention has been diverted from it, after having once entered into the scope of knowledge. Otherwise, if a thing has not been known either by the senses or by the intellect, i.e., it has not yet entered into the knowledge and gnosis of man, then the word remembrance cannot be used for such a thing. The same example can be used in the case of forgetfulness, i.e., forgetfulness cannot be used for a thing which is totally out of the scope of knowledge and gnosis of man. 5 forms of zikr. 1. Suppose there was a young boy called Zayd. He took a new lesson of 4 words from his teacher and repeated it for a while, and he thought he had memorized it. 2. Then next day, when he opened the book and looked, he came to know that he remembered only one word perfectly. 3. Then one more word came to his memory after his having forgotten it. 4. The third word came to his memory as a result of reflecting. 5. The fourth word he had forgotten completely. He could not remember it despite reflection. Therefore, asking the teacher, he memorized it again. This example reveals that there are 5 forms in zikr, or remembrance. Now, in the following, we will explain these 5 forms separately. The first form of zikr. Whatever man sees, the voices which he hears, whatever he smells, the things which he tastes, and the things which he touches, the store of the results, experiences, and informations of all these things is preserved in the custody of the retentive faculty. Further, reflective and spiritual information is also in the custody and care of the retentive faculty. In this connection, the function of the faculty of memory and the first form of zikr mean to feel and know something through the external or internal senses and entrust it to the retentive faculty. This is called retention, hifz. For the sake of firm remembrance and to assure retention, this thing is brought repeatedly to the heart and tongue or continually conceived through the faculty of memory, i.e., it is learned by heart or note. This is the first form of zikr and remembrance, as Zayd tried to remember his lesson in this manner, i.e., by repetition on the first day. The second form of zikr. It is when for the first time some words are repeated through the retentive and memorizing faculties and understood that now these words become preserved in the record office of the retentive faculty. The person then diverts his attention from them and becomes busy in other activities. When he needs them, he orders the memorizing faculty directing it towards the retentive faculty to bring those words in the heart and on the tongue which were memorized some time ago. Thus, the memorizing faculty asks the retentive faculty or itself peeps into the record office. If the required things are there, then the memorizing faculty carries out the order. This action is the second form of zikr or remembrance, as in the above-mentioned examples when Zayd used the memorizing faculty, only one word came to his memory properly. The third form of zikr. Sometimes a person forgets some of his memorized words, but surprisingly, some of them come to his mind automatically. The reason behind this is that extremely small conscious or luminous atoms or particles are appointed to the function of the faculties of retention, memory, etc. And these small particles are controlled by the small animal souls. Now among these particles, the one on which the word is recorded, if it becomes absent from its place or if becomes unconscious, the word is forgotten. Then when it presents itself in its place or comes to consciousness, then the word comes to memory automatically. This is the third form of zikr. As in the case of Zayd's forgotten lesson, one word came to his mind automatically without any reflection. The fourth form of zikr. It is also a common experience that man does not succeed in recalling his forgotten words even after reflection and thinking. The reason, as mentioned above, is that in this case, the conscious particles of the apartments, which are built separately for the function of different faculties in the brain become absent for some reason, or the state of unconsciousness overtakes them. When, as a result of reflection and meditation, the motion of consciousness takes place in the brain, the particles come to their own place, or they regain consciousness and begin working. Consequently, the forgotten words come again into the memory. This is the fourth form of zikr, as Zayd recalled the fourth word after reflection. The fifth form of zikr. One is not always successful in recalling the forgotten thing, even after pressing the mind through reflection and thinking. For the reasons and causes of forgetfulness are not only one but numerous. Absent-mindedness, or not paying attention, or being difficult, are some of the reasons for which the word does not remain in the retentive faculty, or the particles upon whose soul the word is recorded disappears forever. Anyhow, if the word does not come to mind despite reflection, then there is no other way of making it available except by having recourse to the person who had originally told the word. This is the fifth form of zikr, as Zayd asked the word, which he had forgotten completely, from his teacher and remembered it again. Zikri ilahi. Zikri ilahi means the remembrance of God. This has many aspects and numerous stages. The highest stage is the one where zikri ilahi is performed in the light of ma'rifat, gnosis. The concept of gnosis, or the recognition of God, exists almost in every religion, but there are differences in their interpretation of it. However, regarding the recognition of God, the most comprehensive guidance is that God asked all the souls of the children of Adam, "Am I not your Lord?" They said, "Yea, verily." Quran, Surah 7, Ayat 172. This clearly shows the fact that the most important and the most delicate confession of Lord and Lordship cannot be made in the darkness of ignorance, incognizance, and agnosis, nor in accordance with divine justice was it worthy to take witness from the souls of the children of Adam about the unseen realities of providence without fulfilling their physical, spiritual, and intellectual upbringing. In fact, this confession of "Yea, verily" was made in the light of ma'rifat. Zikr and guidance. If man has forgotten those realities and gnosis, haqa'iq ma'arif, in which was hidden the true gnosis, haqqani ma'rifat, of God, then its remedy lies in the obedience of God, the Prophet, and ulu al-amr, i.e., the Imam. So that practicing zikr ibadat and acquiring ma'rifat in the light of the external and internal guidance of these stages of obedience, everything will come to his memory gradually. As the Quran says, "Remind them, for thou art but a remembrancer." Surah 88, Ayat 21. This means that the Prophet was entrusted with the duty of inviting and admonishing the entire people of the world towards the right path and of reminding the people of his community, according to their status, all that which they had forgotten, even the realities and gnosis of the day of Alast, i.e., the day when God made his covenant with man. But the divine law is that the knowledge of the secrets of ma'rifat is imparted step by step. Ahle Zikr, the people of Zikr. Zikr, in addition to the remembrance of God, means the Quran, and also it is the blessed name of the Holy Prophet. Thus, the people of Zikr has three meanings. A. Those who are the owners of Zikr, i.e., those who are means of Zikr. B. Those who are the owners of the Quran, i.e., those who are the bearers of the knowledge and wisdom of the Quran. And C. Those who are the progeny of the Prophet. These characteristics belong only to the Imams from the progeny of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon them. Therefore, after the Prophet, it is only these pure Imams who hold the position that in the case of all problems or questions pertaining to guidance or knowledge and wisdom, people should have recourse to them. As God says, "Ask the people of Zikr if ye know not." Surah 16, Ayat 43. From this it appears clearly that the people of Zikr are no other than the bearers of the light of Imamat. For it is only these people who can answer every question correctly, can tell every hidden reality, and can remind others of every forgotten thing, howsoever lofty it may be. For these are the successors of Zikr, remembrance, and Muzakkir, remembrancer, i.e., the successors of the Prophet and the people of Zikr, that is to say, the pure Imams who are the treasurers and trustees of all the sciences of the illustrious Prophet, and reminders to the people about God through Zikr Ma'rifat, remembrance and gnosis. Zikr and self-cognizance, Khud Shinasi. According to Islam, it is impossible to attain to the ma'rifat of God without the recognition of one's self. For ma'rifat, or gnosis, is nothing but the cognizance which the arif, gnostic, attains through the observation of the inner eye, while the Lord, through epiphanies of his luminous attributes, brings him up spiritually. This is possible only if such an arif lives in this material world. For if it were possible to test the worship of God and to acquire ma'rifat without this world, then this world would have been meaningless and useless. Here it is quite clear that the Quranic purport of Zikri Ilahi, the remembrance of God, is to remove the veil of negligence from the eye of the heart, and to remember the divine epiphanies of the event of a last, in a practical form. For Zikr Ma'rifat is the practical form of Zikr Ma'rifat, and is also the main purpose of Zikr. Further, here we have drawn the attention repeatedly towards the event of a last, for it is a simple and easy concept and a well-accepted fact which cannot be doubted. In that state which man was in during the event of a last, man was recognizing his soul perfectly, and as a result of this, he was also recognizing God, but later on, he forgot this recognition. As God says, "And he has coined for us a similitude and has forgotten his creation." Surah 36, Ayat 78. This holy verse alludes to the truth that long ago, before this state of forgetfulness, man was rich in the wealth of self-cognizance and was cognizant of the realities of his creation. But afterwards, he forgot all this. Now there is no remedy for the regaining of this cognizance except Zikr Ilahi. The Holy Quran says, "It is we who created you, then made your spiritual forms, then told the angels, 'Fall ye prostrate before Adam,' and they fell prostrate, all save Iblis." Surah 7, Ayat 11. This Quranic wisdom teaches that man exists not only today, but has done so since a very long time, and he existed even when all the angels, save Iblis, prostrated before Adam. Nobody remembers this event except the perfect man, Insan-e Kamil. There are very few people who may believe this dogmatically. This is to say that these matters belong to the high and lofty stages of ma'rifat, and to understand these matters means self-recognition, wherein lies the recognition of God. Man has forgotten all that which belongs to this stage, which he can remember only in the light of zikr-i-ilahi, and this is the Quranic purport of remembrance of God. It is said in the Quran, "And be not ye like those who forgot Allah and caused them to forget their own souls." Surah 59, Ayat 19. This means that the one who gets away from the remembrance of God forgets also the pre-eternal realities of his own soul. And those who are on the different stages of zikr can conceive about the past and future realities and gnosis of their soul according to their status. The divine law, Qanun-i-Ilahi. How can the forgotten secrets of the world of spiritualism and the lost treasures of ma'rifat be found again? The reality of this is that the unchangeable divine practice, habit, and law is one and the same forever. That is to say, that the law which is pertaining to the Quran is also applicable to the physical as well as the spiritual world. Thus, this command, "None of our verses do we abrogate or cause to be forgotten, but bring one better or similar." Surah 2, Ayat 106. Is not only about the Quranic verses, but also about the internal and external signs of entire universe and all existence. Here it is necessary to think seriously about the difference between abrogating a verse and causing it to be forgotten, for none of the Quranic verses, after being revealed and brought before the people, has been taken back, thus allowing the people to forget it. From this it becomes logical to think that abrogation belongs to the tanzil, exoteric aspect of the Quran, while the causing it to be forgotten belongs to the ta'wil, esoteric aspect of the Quran. For God, according to the demands and needs of the time and place, takes away one ta'wil and inspires another ta'wil. Further, abrogation pertains to the verses of scriptures, and causing to forget to the signs of the physical and spiritual worlds, or the external and internal worlds. Thus there should not be any surprise if man, according to this divine law, has forgotten the numerous secrets of life and universe, for he is the omnipotent. Therefore, he can acquaint man with a better ma'rifat of those secrets, or grant him a ma'rifat similar to the previous one, which depends on the zikr of the zakir, rememberer. Thus, according to the Quran, zikr-i-ilahi means to regain those secrets of ma'rifat which have disappeared from the memory of man and which are of pertinence to the epiphanies of the divine attributes. Chapter 2. The Barakat, Blessings of Zikr. In this chapter, we will mention some comprehensive points regarding the Barakat, blessings of the Zikr-i-Ilahi. In this connection, first of all, it is necessary to understand the meaning of Barakat, Arabic Barakah, which is translated into English as blessing properly. Thus, Barakat means increase, abundance, affluence, prosperity, i.e., increase in grace, favor, and good fortune, whether it is external or internal or physical or spiritual. The fountainhead of barakat, blessings. Zikr is done through the sacred and blessed name of the Lord of Glory. According to the teaching of the Quran, there are limitless hidden treasures of blessings, such as knowledge, wisdom, guidance, and infinite other favors in the blessed name of God. In allusion to all these meanings of barakat, it is said in the Quran, O Prophet, the name of thy Lord, who is mighty and glorious, is blessed. Surah 55, Ayat 78. This means that the unending fountainhead and the limitless treasure of all those blessings and mercies which the entire universe and all existence are receiving, or which they are going to receive, either openly or secretly, or those which are specified for the prophets and mu'mins, is the pure name of God and its zikr. Thus, as a proof of this reality, and in order to show the attributes and benefits of zikr, the attention of readers has been drawn in what follows towards some Quranic verses abounding in wisdom. Zikr and Adam. It was through the blessings achieved by the zikr of the blessed name of God that Adam became rich with the science of names, ilm al-asma, and reality of things, haqiqati ashya, and became then the vicegerent of God on earth, and the object of prostration of the angels, masjudi malaik. For the names which were taught to him were, in reality, the names of God. This teaching was given in the form of the spiritual miracles of these supreme names. And all these blessings and felicities were based on the sacred zikr of the supreme name, Ismi A'zam, which was taught to Adam. In addition, Adam also learnt some words, kalimat, i.e., some supreme names after the descent, hubut, from paradise. He completed their zikr as was necessary, and due to the blessings accorded to him through his zikr, his repentance was accepted. The acceptance of Adam's repentance means that his previous state of spirituality and luminousness was completely restored, and he was thus able to discharge the enormous duty of the vicegerency and representation of God, the Exalted, on the planet of Earth. Zikr and Noah. If we study the verse, Surah 11, Ayat 48, we will certainly come to know that in the background of Noah's deluge, there was also a spiritual deluge. As it is narrated in the story of the Quran, it was said unto him, O Noah, go thou down now from the deluge of spiritualism, with peace from us, and blessings upon thee and upon those people who are with you. Surah 11, Ayat 48. It is a matter of principle to believe that Noah had achieved these blessings as a result of the zikr of the great names of God, and not as a result of any kind of external deluge. For there cannot be peace and blessings without the name of God and its zikr. It is essential to note that the peace and blessings of God were bestowed on Noah specifically since the time he attained the status of prophethood. Zikr and Abraham. There is also this Quranic proof with regards to Abraham, that God tried him with certain words, kalimat, and those certain words mean the names of God. That is, to say that Abraham duly fulfilled the blessed zikr of the great names of God, as a result of which he was appointed as Imam for the people of the entire world in his personal status, as well as in the status of his progeny, and became the fountainhead of all divine blessings. This is clear from the purport of Surah 2, Ayat 124. Zikr and Moses. It is mentioned in verse Surah 27, Ayat 8. When he came to it, fire, a voice was raised. Blessed is whosoever is in the fire, i.e., light, and whosoever is round about it, and glorified be Allah, the Lord of the worlds. Surah 27, Ayat 8. It was that light of guidance which Moses, as a result of zikr of God, saw with the inner eye, and in which there were the blessings of reason and understanding, knowledge and wisdom, discretion and guidance. And it was through the presence of this same light that Moses also obtained blessings and mercies. Zikr and Jesus. In the verse, Surah 19, Ayat 31, God says about Jesus that he said, "And he has made me blessed wheresoever I may be." Surah 19, Ayat 31. Here it is very necessary to understand that this verse is full of abundant wisdom, and the keys of numerous realities are hidden therein. In this verse, the allusion of the wheresoeverness, aniyat, of the word wheresoever, ain, is towards both the physical as well as the spiritual states. That is to say, that in wheresoever I may be, Jesus says that in the entire period of my prophethood, I have been made the source of blessing for those people among whom I will live physically as well as spiritually. One wisdom of this Quranic verse is that the acquisition of the general and special guidance, the way of which is ordained to acquire the blessing and goodness from the Ismi Azam and the heavenly book, is impossible without the Imam of the time. The second wisdom is that the proximity and nearness and companionship and friendship of the religious guide who has been appointed by God is of two kinds, physical and spiritual. For if we think that Jesus was the source of blessing only for those people who were always living in his company physically, then this will necessitate a spatial and temporal limit on divine graces and blessings, and consequently, all those who are very faithful and obedient, but who physically live far away from their guide, will be deprived from these blessings and mercies. The third wisdom in this verse is that the spiritualism and luminousness of the Ismi Azam, the heavenly book, and the Imam of the time are in reality the same. This is the reason why the source of blessing is sometimes regarded as the name of God, sometimes as the revealed book, and sometimes as the true guide, i.e. the Imam. And all these three words have the same meaning, for it is the principle of spiritualism that one reality has several names. The gist of this description is that Jesus' being the source of blessing from God is a clear proof of the fact that he received this highest status as a result of the zikr of God. For without the great name of God and its sacred zikr, no blessing and mercy can be obtained. Zikr and Muhammad. From the numerous Quranic verses, it is seen to be an established fact that the Prophet had the spiritual relation and the luminous connection with the blessed Ism-i-Azam of his Lord. The Prophet used to remember the Ism-i-Azam and its accompanying great names. Asma-i-Izam of God before and after attaining to the status of prophethood, and God had made him the treasurer of the spiritualism, luminousness, knowledge, and wisdom of all his great names. As already mentioned, zikr also means the Quran. The basis of naming it this is that Quran means recital. Surah 75, Ayat 17 to 8. And the meaning of zikr means to remember God. The Prophet used to recite the Ism-i-Azam and remember God, as a result of which the final book of God was revealed to him. Thus, on account of the recital of the name of God by the Prophet, the book is called the Quran, and because of the remembrance of God, it is called the zikr. Another reason of calling the Quran zikr is that to facilitate the mu'min, that all admonitions, guidances, spirit, and living realities of the Quran are included in the blessed name of God and its holy zikr. As is said in the chapter, The Moon, and indeed we have made the Quran easy to remember, but is there any that remembers? Surah 54, Ayats 17, 22, 32, and 40. To make the Quran easy to remember means that the omnipotent God has encompassed it, the Quran, in the spiritualism of his miraculous name in the form of a living spirit and a perfect light. This has repeatedly been mentioned in this chapter, by which God intends, that the intelligent and wise people should draw their attention towards this great wisdom that the Holy Quran, with its exoteric and esoteric meanings, and with its entire attributes, is encompassed in the Ism-i-Azam. From this example, mu'mins can estimate how innumerable are the mercies and blessings contained in the blessed name and pure zikr of God, the Great, the Exalted. As mentioned earlier, zikr is one of the names of the Prophet, and this is mentioned in verses Surah 65, Ayats 10 to Ayat 11. The Prophet's Prayer for Blessings. As God had made Jesus the source of blessings, Mubarak, in his time for the obedient people, similarly, he made the Prophet the source and means of blessings and mercies in his time, in his personal status, and in future through his successor, lest the world be devoid of the mercy and blessings of God. One Quranic example of the blessful prayer of the Prophet is, "Who is he that will loan God a beautiful loan, which he will double unto his credit and multiply many times. Surah 2, Ayat 245. This clearly means that God wants to take some wealth under the name of a beautiful loan, Qardi Hasana. And in return for this material sacrifice, He wants to shower upon them the blessings and mercies belonging to the world and religion. But it is obvious that God Himself takes no material thing except through His Prophet. Also, in return for the payment of zakat, the blessing can be received only through the Prophet. It is mentioned in the Quran, "Take sadaqah, alms, of their wealth, wherewith thou mayst purify them from sins, and sanctify them, and pray for them, for goodness and increase. Verily, thy prayers are a source of security for them." Surah 9, Ayat 103. It is clear from this that the source of every goodness and increase, according to divine command, is the blessed prayer of the Prophet, and the prayer of his successor has the same nature. Further, the Lord of Glory says in the Quran, "Verily, in the zikr Allah, the remembrance of God, do hearts find satisfaction." Surah 13, Ayat 28. Now the question arises about this verse, which abounds in wisdom, that if it was possible for the heart to find satisfaction only through the remembrance of God without any condition, then why did He say to the Prophet that there was satisfaction for them in his prayers? The answer to this question is that the zikr Allah, which is mentioned here as the satisfaction for hearts, is the one and only the one of which the Prophet or his successor has granted permission, guidance, and blessings. Otherwise, real satisfaction is difficult, rather is impossible. Zikr and the pure Imams. As briefly mentioned in the first chapter, Ahl-i Zikr, the people of Zikr, are only the Imams from the family of the Prophet. This appellation is one of the Quranic appellations of the holy Imams. It has various aspects of reality and meaning, such as 1. The people of the Prophet, Ahl-i Rasul, or the progeny of the Prophet, Ali Rasul, i.e., those people who are from the household of the Prophet and have the status of the gate of the city of the knowledge of the Prophet and the door of the house of his wisdom, and are aware of the religious secrets as ought to be. 2. The people of the Quran, Ahl al-Quran, i.e., those people whom God has mentioned with the favorite name of Al-Rasikun fi al-Ilm, those who are well grounded in knowledge, and has granted them the knowledge of Tanzil and Ta'wil of the Quran, and they are the treasurers of the all, the realities and gnosis of the physical and spiritual worlds. 3. The people of admonition or exhortation and guidance, i.e., those who guide and lead people as Ulu al-Amr, after God and the Prophet, and obedience to whom is incumbent upon the people. 4. The people of the remembrance of God, Zikri Ilahi Wale, i.e., those who remember God, remind the people of the zikr of God, teach the great names, guide in all procedures of zikr, are aware of all the secrets and symbols of zikr, know the stages of spiritualism and luminousness, and are the light of guidance of the path of ma'rifat, gnosis. Each imam from among the imams, in his own time, is the present and living Ismi Azam of God, and the treasurer and the protector of the hidden and inner remembrance. Zikri Khafiyu Qalbi. For the imam holds the vicegerency and representation of God and the Prophet. Therefore, the endless treasures of the blessings and mercies of God and the Prophet are entrusted only to the imam. Partial vicegerency, Khilafati Juzwi. It is necessary for a true mu'min to understand that in consideration of the collective and individual state of mankind, there are two vicegerencies. One is the universal vicegerency, which is related to the entire universe as the vicegerency of Adam. The other one is partial vicegerency, which is related to a mu'min's own self. Universal vicegerents are the prophets and imams in their respective times. Partial vicegerents can be any true mu'min who remembers the pure Ismi Azam of God in accordance with the luminous guidance of the true guide of his time and has achieved due success in it. Such a successful and fortunate mu'min succeeds to the vicegerency and representation of God in the world of his personal spiritualism. And its external result is in the form of knowledge of reality and gnosis. This is among the blessings of zikr, as God says, Allah has promised to those among you who believe and do good works that He will surely make them His vicegerent in the earth as He made vicegerent those who were before them. Surah 24, Ayat 55. When God said those among you, shows that this is addressed to all those who believe, but those whom God has promised to grant vicegerency are not all of the believers, but only those who truly believe and do good works in the true sense. Such mu'mins will be given the vicegerency on the earth of spiritualism, as it was granted to the true mu'mins of the past communities. But as it was not made public in the past, similarly it will not be open today, for this is a personal vicegerency. An example of barakat, blessing. The example of the blessings and mercies of the sacred zikr of God is that of clean and clear water which comes down from the sky. For according to the Quranic verse, Surah 50, Ayat 9, water is regarded as the source of material blessings. Now we have to see how, because of water, the entire world becomes fertile and prosperous, beautiful and attractive. Gardens and parks come into being, and grain is stored from blooming and flourishing fields for the sustenance of the people. We also have to see how that city, which was dead in the winter, comes into life because of water. This example of water is given in order to understand the blessings and favors resulting from the zikr of God, whereby the spirit of faith, imani ruh, becomes prosperous, and the real life of mu'min is made possible. The barakat, blessings, of the heaven and the earth. In the verse, Surah 7, Ayat 96, it is said, And if the people of the towns had believed and had been righteous, surely we should have opened for them the doors of the blessing of heaven and earth. Surah 7, Ayat 96. The meaning of this verse is related more to spiritual blessings than to material ones. In any case, the keys to blessings and favors are in the names of God, and the necessary guidance can be achieved only from the holder of the divine command. The barakat of both worlds. In the Quranic verse, it is said, "Indeed, both the physical world and spiritual world belongs to Him. Blessed is Allah, the Lord of the worlds." Surah 7, Ayat 54. In this holy verse, it is alluded that the infinite blessings and mercies of the Lord of the worlds are spread in both the physical and spiritual worlds, the keys of which are, as mentioned above, in the remembrance of the blessed and holy name of God. In this chapter, from the beginning to this juncture, the purpose of those important and special points which we have discussed in the light of the Holy Quran is to show that the zikr of the blessed and holy name of God embraces all the blessings and mercies of this world and the world of religion and the external and internal worlds. No religious person should remain heedless of the zikr of God. The one who is occupied in the remembrance of God should be aware of all its benefits and hence practice accordingly, so that in the combination of knowledge and practice he may achieve success quickly.